What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Zero Lab. Today we're going to be taking a look at Lugia VSTAR in the current Stellar Crown format. And there's four, I think, lists of Lugia VSTAR that are slightly different and different enough that we should take a look at each one of them. They're not just one or two cards off of each other. There's ideas in them that are different enough that I think they're sort of different types of Lugia that we want to take a look at and determine which one is the best one in the current Stellar Crown format. So we're going to be taking a look at some of these tournament results and these four different lists of Lugia for you to get an idea of what sort of Lugia V-Star deck that you want to pilot in the Stellar Crown format. Lugia, very strong archetype. I think one of the knocks on Lugia in the current format, and ever since a few rotations ago, is that it can be a little bit inconsistent, but we've seen some top players consistently do really well with Lugia. It has some really good matchups right now in the current format, and so that's the reason we should be considering Lugia to any League Cup, League Challenge, or major event that we're going to in this format. And first, we want to take a look at Rahul Reed's Lugia list that he's been piloting since Worlds, really. And Rahul has some very good places with it. 5th place at Baltimore, 9th place at Worlds, and 2nd place at Dortmund. So I think this deck speaks for itself, the success that Rahul has had with it. And so this has to be taken into consideration. So we're going to open up this list and take a look at it here. One of the differences in Rahul's list to a lot of other people's list is we're seeing that Earthen Vessel plus 1 basic lightning energy, the Raikou V coming in here, as well as just the 1/1 Minccino Cinccino line, rather than the 2/2 or more that we've seen from other lists. One thing I think that is really interesting in here is the Raikou V. It's another great lightning attacker to take out things like Pidgeot with the Area Zero Stadium now, and things like Terapagos filling their bench even further. You can use this Raikou V to take big one-hit KOs if your opponent really goes wide on their bench to 8 Pokemon, and it's one way to knock out a Terapagos EX. Other than using your Cinccino and your Ursaluna. So that's really interesting. The Pheasantipede EX and the Iron Bundle are also inclusions that aren't in some of these other Lugia decks, and I think they make they're very interesting to have in here. Obviously, Iron Bundle can push things out of the way that either you don't want to hit into or who are just sitting in the active spot being annoying to you. And the Pheasantipede with that additional card draw is really good. One thing that we are seeing from a lot of these Lugia decks in common is almost everyone is playing a heavy gusting count, 4 bosses orders for the most part, and sometimes 3. So that's really interesting, and obviously the results of Rahul's list speak for themselves. A couple of things that I don't love about the list. I am not the biggest fan of just the 1/1 Cinccino. I think that is the strongest attacker in your deck, and so having a thicker Cinccino line makes more sense to me. Can't argue with Rahul's results, but we'll see some other players have gotten some consistent results as well with a little bit thicker Cinccino line later down in this video. However, I think the Raikou is really cool. The Pheasantipede to draw extra cards is really cool. The Earthen Vessel to have both Legacy Energy and a Lightning Energy, so that you can utilize both Iron Hands and Raikou V, or use Iron Hands while saving your Legacy Energy for a different attacker, is very interesting. So I think Rahul's list, very consistent. That Earthen Vessel as an extra way to discard Archeops is also very cool. And I don't think you can go wrong piloting this list. Now, going to the next one, we have Kieran Far. Kieran got 6th place at Louisville, I believe got 2nd place at Baltimore. So Kieran's been doing very well with this Lugia list, and we'll open this up here to show you the differences between this and Rahul's list. Right off the bat, we see no Iron Bundle, no Pheasantipede, no Raikou, no Earthen Vessel, no basic Lightning Energy. But Kieran's opted to go for a full 4 research, the Squawkabilly. Rahul did have the Squawkabilly as well, and then a 2/2 Minccino Cinccino line. So this is really interesting. It has the more mist energies. If you saw Rahul's list only had the 1 mist energy, Kieran's got the full 3 mist energies, so that's going to be helpful against the Regidrago matchup as well as the Dragapult matchup to protect your Mincinos and your other Pokemon from getting that damage spread. And personally, this is the list that I like the most out of all the lists that we're going to be looking at. I think it has the perfect balance of consistency and power. And that 4 research count, the 2-2 Cinchino line, along with the Weird Deer, means that you're going to be able to utilize these great attackers to take big one-hit KOs. Moving on to our next list here, we have Joshua Vanover Shelby's list. Joshua obviously got 6th place at Lille recently, but seems to have been piloting this deck since Worlds. Got 78th place at Dortmund and then 21st place at Worlds. So top 32 at Worlds, top 8 at Lille. So very good results here for Joshua. And we'll see here that it is a little bit different than the other 2 lists that we looked at, given that it's got the 3-3 Cinchino line rather than just the 2-2. No Squawkabilly in here. And Jamming Tower as the stadium over something like the Mesagoza. But we will see here then coming in is a 4-4-4 Ultra Ball capturing a Great Ball. So relying on those ball searches to go find out those Archeops, then research or Carmine or Ultra Ball them away to get those Archeops in the discard pile. The one thing I would kind of like to see in here, however, is I do think that Squawkabilly is still really good for consistency. Obviously, Joshua's had really good success with this list overall, but I do think Squawkabilly warrants a spot in the deck. And I honestly think that, you know, it could take the place of a Research or Carmine potentially in here if you want to keep that high ball search count. The other thing is the Jamming Tower is really good for shutting off things like for Sealstone, if you're trying to slow down like a Charizard or Dragapult deck that are utilizing those 4 Sealstones. It also turns off the Bravery Charms against something like Raging Bolt, which is helpful because then you can still knock out like the Ogre Pawns with your Lugias, even if they've put the Bravery Charms on them. However, I'm not sure that you're that worried about Bravery Charms. When you have the 3-3 Cinchino line in here, you should be able to hit plenty of numbers with those rats. So yeah, I think this is a really good list as well. I do think that there's, like, you could even make it more consistent. Just have the 4-4-4 ball search, 2 Mesagoza and a Squawkabilly in here, and you should be getting that turn 2 double Archeops pretty consistently. But this is just another flavor of Lugia for you. And then looking at Yuro Valencia's list from Louisville, this is another list that is really interesting, and it's kind of a blend of different ideas coming from like Rahul and these other decks, but it's probably more similar to Rahul's list than the others. However, we're seeing just the 1-1 Cinchino in here. We have the Raikou and the Iron Hands, and the Water Ogre Pawn. So you'll see no basic lightning energy in here. So really, if you want to use any of these attackers, you just have the legacy energy to utilize them. However, the Ogre Pawn does recycle the legacy energy back into the deck when it uses that torrential pump. So you can kind of use Water Ogre Pawn early in the game and then Iron Hands or something later. The other thing to note in here is the 1 Arven and the 1 Vitality Band. Vitality Band makes a lot of sense here. I actually played against Yurko in Louisville. I was playing Terapagos and he was playing Lugia. We ended up tying, but the Vitality Band really helped him out in that matchup, because one of the things that's cool for Terapagos in that matchup is the Lugia VSTARs can't one-shot a Terapagos, but with the Vitality Band they can actually get up to that 230 damage output and knock out your Terapagos in one hit, which makes that matchup a little bit better for Lugia. He kind of surprised me in Game 1 with the Water Ogre Pawn, and I wasn't ready for it even though I played Manaphy. Game 2, I was able to get that Manaphy down and win Game 2, and then we just didn't have time to finish Game 3. So I do think that this list is really interesting. I like the idea of playing the Wellspring Mask Ogre Pawn. I think the Vitality Band is really interesting, although I'm not sure that I would necessarily sacrifice the consistency to play it. When you can play something more like Kieran's list, just play the 2-2 Cinchino, have Ursaluna and Weird Deer, and all those attackers can hit the numbers that you need to, rather than really playing that Vitality Band. But all 4 of these lists obviously have very good results. I don't think you can go wrong with playing any of them. The question is, what techs do you want to play? What is the expected meta that you would like to see? And how consistent do you want your deck to be? I think you could go the max consistency route, 4-4-4 ball search, 2 Mesagoza, a Squawkabilly, and just go crazy with consistency. I think Kieran's list is my favorite because it's got the perfect balance of like power and consistency. It's got the 4 research, so you don't always have to Luminion to find your your supporters. It's high supporter count, high ball search count, 2 nest ball. It could have 2 great ball, if you cut down on some of the supporters here or something. But I think the Kieran Far list is my favorite for sure. I do think that one thing that I would consider going forward is the Wellspring Mask Ogre-Pon. A lot of decks are not playing Manaphy. Some Dragapults aren't playing Manaphy, although Dragapult is already a favored matchup. But if decks like Gardevoir and Dragapult are in your area and Charizard and they're not playing the Manaphys, that Wellspring Mask Ogre-Pon can be a very strong inclusion for those matchups. So it'll be interesting to see where Lugia goes going forward. One thing to note is at the first regional of this format, Baltimore, I believe, not Baltimore, I can't remember what it was, but we've seen the meta share for Lugia consistently go up. At the first regional, it was 6%, the next regional, it was 8%, and then in Louisville, I believe at Louisville it was 8%, and then in Lille it was 10%. So we are seeing Lugia's meta share day one at these major events steadily go up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that increase in play in Lugia continue as we've seen good players get consistent results with these different Lugia lists. So those are just 4 lists for you to consider as you're considering picking up Lugia VSTAR and playing it to your next tournament, whether it's a local, at like a League Cup or a League Challenge, or your next major event. Hopefully this video helped you kind of take a look at these different flavors of Lugia and decide what you want to play. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video.